Okay, so now we're going to be talking about prompts. But first, I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to go to the header.js and I'm going to delete the title state because we don't need it. I'm going to delete the console log. We are not going to need it. And then we are going to delete the dips right here. And of course, the console log right here. I'm going to save it. And if I check it, everything works. That's good. So now I'm going to go to index.js. And what I want to do, I want to bring the news. I want to bring a file, some JSON data that it's going to be the news. Right here, we're going to have the news. So first, as a project resource, as a this section resource, I've added a dv.json. So you can download it, download the file, and put it inside the source. We're going to be using it right now. So this dv.json is going to contain just a few JSON data with an ID title, which is going to be the title of the news, and then just a feed with some lorem ipsum. Good. So what we're going to do, we're going to fetch this dv.json, and then we're going to pass it to a different place so we can render the news. Okay, first we need to fetch the JSON. So I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to say import JSON from, and then we bring it from ./db.json, and remember that we are inside the source. Good. So now this dv.json is going to be converted to an object. So what we can do, I'm going to say console log, and we're going to say JSON. And if we check it on the console, we have the objects. Good. So now what we need to do, we need to grab all this information and pass it to a different component, which is going to be the news list. But first, inside the app right here, what I want to use is going to be a class-based component. So this one, it's a stateless, a functional component. I want to change that. So first, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to say class, and then it's going to have the same name, and then extends, just like we did before. I'm doing this right now because now we know how a class-based component works and that we can use a state, so we can do it right now. Extends, and then component, and open and close. I'm going to delete the console log.json, and remember that whenever we use a class, we cannot just return something. We need to use the render method. Open and close, and then we put everything inside of this. Good. Okay, so I'm going to save it, and of course, nothing works. Component, it's not defined. We are calling component right here, but we are not bringing the component from React, just like we did before. So I'm going to just copy this and bring the component, comma, and then component. And if we reload, everything still works just fine. Right here, JSON is defined but never used. We're going to use it right now. So what we need to do, we need to pass this JSON data to a different component, which is going to be the news list. We don't have a component inside the news list, so we're going to do it right now. I'm going to say import React from, and then React, of course. And this is always the same motion. You need to import something. So a good advice for me, I'm going to give you an advice right now, is going to be having a template or having some snippets, because you're going to be typing this manually every time you do a project. I'm doing it right now because I'm giving you a course, I'm explaining what to do, so I need to type everything. But in real life, you should have snippets. Okay. So we're going to create this component, and this component for now is going to be a stateless component. So I'm going to say const functional component. And this one is going to be called news list. So I'm going to say news list, just like that. And this one is going to be equal, it is going to be equal to a function. Very good. So this one, whenever we call this one, is going to return some JSX. And this JSX for now is just going to be a div with news list, whatever. So now we need to make this component available inside other components. So if you remember, we need to say export, then default, and then news list, just like that. Okay, so this component, it's ready to be included inside other components. But first, we need to call them. So I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to say import, and then we're going to be importing news list, just like that. And then from, and then we do /components/ and news list. Okay. So now, just like we did with header, if I include this news list right here, news list, and we close it, in theory, we should be getting news list, and that's what we are getting. So this works just fine. Now, the thing is that I'm fetching a JSON right here, and what I want to do whenever I fetch this JSON, I want to store it inside the state of app, this app. So, okay, so I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to say state. And the state is going to be equal to an object. So now I'm going to create a new property that is going to be news, and news is going to be equal to JSON, just like that, JSON. Again, if we do console.log, just to make sure that everything works, console log, we have the JSON and the news available inside the state of this app. So we say this.state.news. And in theory, we should be getting the console log, so we get it. That's good. So everything works fine. Now the problem, and it's the main point of this section, is to pass the news, to pass the JSON to a different component, and in this case, it's going to be news list. So we need a way to pass this. And this is going to be called props. And it's very important, just like the state. We can pass data between components using props. How can we do it? Well, first, inside this reference to the component, I'm going to say news. And this could be whatever you want. It doesn't matter. It could be news, could be donkey. You can put whatever you want. So I'm going to call it news because, of course, it makes sense. I'm going to say news and then open and close curly braces. So right here, we need to specify what we need to pass to this component. So what we need to pass is going to be this.state.news. And let me make this smaller. This.state.news. So this is going to pass the JSON data to the news list. Good. So now inside the news list, how can we catch this information? Well, this information is going to be passed to this component, which is just a function inside the arguments. So whenever you create a component, you have some information available called props, just like that. And you get this props by default whenever you use React with any component, any type of component. If you use a stateless component, a functional component, just like this, you're going to get some props. If you're going to use a class-based component, you're going to get some props too. You always get the props. That's the one of the key features of React. So in theory, if I go right here at the bottom and say console log, and then console log whatever information I have inside props, just props, and go right here, I'm going to get it. And notice that this one is kind of different. It's giving me an object with some news, and inside the news, the news property, I have my news. Good. So you get a lot of information. What happens if I want to pass something else, not just news? What I can pass is say donkey, and donkey, just like that, donkey, and it's going to be equal to me, whatever. And then I'm going to go to news list, and of course, we get a new object from the console log props, and inside props we have news and we have donkey. So in theory, what we can do, since we have the information inside props, I can say console log and then props, and then instead of a news, you can say donkey. So we get me. Okay, that's good. It's really, really awesome. If you think about it, we can do a lot of things for this. We are just passing a lot of data, and we can catch that data inside props. And right here, of course, we can use this props.donkey. Let me go right here. We use the curly braces, and we make a reference to props and donkey. Good. So if we go reload the page, we get me. Okay, so really, really easy to use. We pass props, and then we use it. So now what we need to do, and we're going to go to the next section right now, we need to create some markup for this, grab the props, bring the news. Of course, it's not going to happen right here because we have an object, so it's not going to display it. Objects are not valid as a React child. You cannot pass some object inside the return. JSON, the object data is not valid JSX. So it's going to give you a fat error message. So we need to do something else right here. So let's go to the next section and check how can we render, how we are going to be able to render this news object.